At least 37 people were killed across Lebanon in Israeli strikes today, and that includes 9 who were sleeping inside an apartment in the Lebanese capital. Israel has been pounding areas of the country where the Hezbollah militant group has a strong presence, but has rarely struck in the heart of Beirut. It's the first strike there since 2006, and there was no advance warning for the people living there. Not only is Israel conducting an air and ground incursion into Lebanon, it's also striking Gaza, leaving dozens, including children, dead today. Explosions were heard and flares were seen across Beirut during the early morning hours as Israeli strikes hit the Lebanese capital. It happened in the middle of the night while people were asleep and without any warning. The light of day showing destroyed buildings, rubble-strewn streets, and rescue workers digging frantically through rubble looking for survivors.
It's the first time an Israeli strike hits the center of the city since all-out war between Lebanon and Israel in 2006. And even then, strikes like this were rare. This is the second time this week that we've seen attacks outside the southern suburbs, Hezbollah's seat of power. The target appears to have been a Hezbollah-affiliated health authority office in a residential area, and several medics were killed.
Healthcare continues to come under attack. In Lebanon alone, 28 health workers have been killed in the last 24 hours.
Meanwhile, Beirut hospitals are saying they're overwhelmed by a surge in casualties as the conflict intensifies.
In southern Lebanon, 37 health facilities have been closed, while in Beirut, 3 hospitals have been forced to fully evacuate staff and patients, and another 2 were partially evacuated.
The World Health Organization had planned to deliver a large shipment of medical supplies tomorrow to Lebanon, but unfortunately, the Director General says it isn't possible due to the almost complete closure of Beirut's airport. Israel issuing further evacuation orders today. 76 villages in southern Lebanon have been told to flee their homes, signaling a broader ground incursion set to begin. An IDF spokesperson warning, save your lives.
People use the word unbelievable. I mean, what are we living through? What are we looking at over here? The level of trauma, the level of fear amongst the population has been extreme.
More than 1.2 million Lebanese have been displaced since the start of the Israeli attacks on Lebanon over the last year, most of them in the past 2 weeks. With few options left, countries began evacuating citizens on military planes.
Seeing civilians suffer regardless, it was a very tough time, especially for my kids.
I don't know why they are doing this. It's for what? For power or for what?
This was not the plan of life. This was not the plan to leave home, to leave country, but where can we go?
Thousands leaving their homes behind as smoke billows on the Beirut skyline. Israel says the aim of its operations in Lebanon is to allow tens of thousands of its citizens displaced from northern Israel by Hezbollah bombardments over the past year to return home. The Israeli military saying 9 of its soldiers have died in the conflict in southern Lebanon this week.
We already proved that we have the ability to reach any destination in the Middle East.
It's been 2 days since Iran fired nearly 200 ballistic missiles at Israel. The U.S. and Israel are now discussing the next steps.
We will send a very clear message to Iran. It will be painful. You know, Hamas underestimated our determination. Also, Nasrallah in Beirut. We all know what happened in Gaza and in Beirut. The same will happen with Iran.
President Joe Biden says he doesn't expect Israel to retaliate immediately.
What are the plans to allow Israel to strike back against Iran?
First of all, we don't allow Israel, we advise Israel, and there's nothing going to happen today. We'll talk about that later.
While the world waits, Israel's aerial campaign in Lebanon rages on. It's being conducted at an intensity comparable only to the first weeks of its bombardment in Gaza last year. We're nearing the 1-year mark of Hamas's attack in Israel, killing 1,200 and taking more than 200 hostage, and then the subsequent war in Gaza. Strikes continued there today, killing dozens, including women and children. More than 41,000 Palestinians have been killed in the territory, and just over half of the dead have been women and children. That's according to local health officials.